My name is Another Pen, and today we're going to be talking about the AI Controversies Iceberg. This iceberg is a little thing dreamt up by me because I fucking hate AI. And that's going to be what I talk about for the next, month. So, if you're interested in understanding some of the things wrong with AI and some of the things that are going wrong in the AI industry, this is a video for you. Go ahead, stick around. Put some headphones in, maybe do some chores, whatever the hell you want. If you like AI and you want to broaden your horizons, you're welcome to stay. If you're like some AI turbo jerker diehard, probably not the video for you, man. That all being said, this is long enough for an introduction. Let's go ahead and just get into it. The first thing we're going to be talking about on this iceberg, the very first entry, is clearing up how it is exactly that AI works. Now, AI is shorthand for artificial intelligence. It's basically a machine that can do something on its own. It's smart. But it's not smart in the way that you or I are. It can't necessarily come up with thoughts on its own. It can only run through predetermined functions. AI has existed in some form or another for a relatively long time. We've been able to code things to run through pre-existing functions pretty well and be able to solve certain problems on their own with enough data input and training. Video game NPCs, for example, that's AI. Autocorrect, that's AI. The specific AI that is in the cultural zeitgeist in everyone's minds right now is actually generative AI. It's a very specific kind of AI, because you have reactive AI, that's a kind of thing that is trained on a data set to parse through information and then react when something looks out of place, like autocorrect. You have analytical AI, which is AI that is trained to see a ton of stuff. It's fed a ton of data about images, and then you show it other images similar to that. And it's used in medical stuff, and it can work pretty well, not as well as humans do, but close. And those kinds of AI have existed. They help people out. They're good, right? They're fine. They're not as good as a person is, but you can't really super complain because they're not killing the earth or anything. Generative AI, its whole shtick is that it has been force-fed everything. All of the human data on the internet. It's had this done to it in a strange little attempt to get it to be able to make its own things. But here's a problem with that, is that AI can't create anything, and it's false advertisement to say so. Because essentially what this generative AI is doing is it is being fed a huge amount of data, then it's being told to make something from that data. It lacks the capacity to do anything other than what's in its data set. So in reality, what generative AI is doing is it is vomiting out a smorgasbord of what it roughly thinks the prompt should be. So, generative AIs like ChatGPT don't know what a sentence is. They don't really get that. They've just been fed a shit ton of sentences. So you go, hey ChatGPT, make me a sentence. It has billions of sentences to compare against, so it just reshuffles one of those into something new. But it's not really new, is it? And it's not really generating anything new. Rather, it seems to be more of a regurgitating of something. And this is one of my many ethical concerns about it, is that generative AI isn't actually making anything new. It is regurgitating old data that was stolen and then fed to it. And this is how these models work. They have the entire sum of human art and communication and language and every fucking stupid comment online just shoved into a machine, and then the investors and the owners of these companies try to tell you that this machine can make something new, that it can help you out. Sure, the machine might know something because it was force-fed Google. You could just go to Google. Darth Vader in Fortnite. Fortnite is essentially video game action figures. That's kind of what I've figured it out to be. I've never really played it, but essentially you have all of these characters from all of these universes, from all of these fandoms, and they're thrown into one spot and you make them fist fight. It is exactly what children did with action figures back in the day. I remember doing that. I had like some guys from Fast and Furious and the dude from Die Hard, and I'd make them fist fight and maybe kiss if I was feeling a little freaky. So, now that all of us out of touch folks understand what exactly it is that Fortnite is, Star Wars came to Fortnite. That's cool. That's awesome, right? Star Wars? Those are some great action figures, and now they're in the action figure video game. Here's where they kind of blundered, was they made Darth Vader an NPC. That's fine. NPCs use reactive AI, yes, but that's not necessarily a despicable thing. And then what they did was they plugged him in to generative AI, so you would say something to Darth Vader and he would respond. The problem is that generative AI doesn't understand social norms, because that's not necessarily a thing. It can be like force-fed and actually understand, because it can't actually understand anything. And two, people were finding increasingly bizarre ways to jailbreak Darth Vader and get him to say some wild shit.
I am neither a fucking AI, nor these nick are still stealing these Hellcats, acquiring Hennessy and honey packs.
Darth Vader was in Fortnite. They had AI behind it. Some wildly goofy shit was happening, because that is not a product that is ready to be used in that kind of sense yet, and for some reason Fork Knife Incorporated, Epic Games behind that, was just like, yes, put the untested product directly into the hands of millions of people worldwide. It won't say anything racist. And then it did. And that was, a little bit of a problem. YouTube Kids is AI slop. Now, YouTube Kids is a strange little place online. It's essentially a secondary app to YouTube where you throw all of your iPad babies at. Now, I think the mere existence of an iPad baby speaks to a deep personal moral failing to a parent, but a lot of people aren't ready for that conversation yet, so we'll put that one in the back pocket for later. But essentially, a lot of parents are like, sure, child, have unregulated screen time. It'll be good for you. I know you're 4. Spend 12 hours a day online. Probably not good for the next generation, but don't worry, guys. That's only our problem in 10 years from now. YouTube Kids doesn't have the Shorts function, which is YouTube's attempt to desperately steal some of that sweet, sweet TikTok money. But it does still have extremely short, very flashy, very entertaining, very dopamine-hooking style videos on it, and you can still earn ad revenue on these videos. So some brilliant, sick fucks out there in the world have decided that they can just have AI create the whole video. And now there's a problem where a huge amount of YouTube Kids is just straight up AI slop. And I use the term slop because creating art, creating content, is kind of like creating food. That art will be consumed. The food has to be good. That art has to have specific flavors and aromas and textures to it for it to be just right. And if you don't have it right, it's not fucking good. Very important thing. I might make silly, goofy little YouTube videos on youtube.com about icebergs, but I take it probably too seriously for how, mid-quality these videos are, right? I'm fucking serious about that. Slop is edible, but it is not food. There's a huge difference between the two. There's a very big gap between something that can be ingested and something that can be enjoyed. AI is essentially the slop of art. Art is curated. It is made, prepared in a specific way. It is seasoned, it is spiced, it has all of these things in it. AI doesn't have any of that. It's ingestible. It's slop. So, I say AI, slop is on YouTube Kids, and that's a problem, because rather than having someone's specific personal experiences to go after, rather than there being some kind of lesson, some kind of meaning, or at the very least, something deliberately entertaining, these children are just being fed whatever fucking bullshit is churned out of the machine. There's no intent, there's no mind, there's no image, there's no passion. There is someone behind a computer typing a few words and then jacking themselves off as the revenue dollars flow in. So it gets on the iceberg. Starting off level 2 strong, we have Alex Karp high on stage. Who the fuck is Alex Karp, I hear you asking? Alex Karp is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, highest position aside from, the board of investors and people who own the company, of Palantir, a name you've probably heard thrown around. Palantir is essentially a data collection and analysis company. And who do they work for? Who do they get contracts from to collect data and analyze? Oh, the US government. It's an AI company that takes all of your information from the US government and runs it through its shitty little AI program and makes profiles on you. Isn't that great? Isn't that fucking awesome? Isn't society so cool right now? So, this dipshit harbinger of the technocratic supreme fascist state that uses AI to assess whether or not you're a good citizen goes on stage on live television, and these things happen. These clips are farmed,
honestly. And you know what, again, you can go all day on these stuff. It's honestly idiotic,
right? Now you might be thinking, boy, that's weird. You know what I thought when I first saw that? Boy, that's familiar. Now here's some another pen lore for you. Here's some doodle-doo, fun fact. I am the first person of my family in 4 generations to decide not to be a career criminal. That is what almost every single member of my family has ever done as an adult, is some form of career crime. Now, this cool little fun fact that I decided to make art and try to be a normal adjusted guy has meant that I've been around people tweaking the fuck out on amphetamines before. That motherfucker is high. You could put a clean drug test in front of me and be like, it's his piss, and I'd be like, bullshit, it's fake piss. Jesus could descend and be like, he wasn't high, my son, and I'd be like, bullshit. That dude was tweaking. He was on that good shit, probably on some crystal. That's really popular in the tech circles of America, because the way a lot of these businessmen start is they take ADHD medication during the crunch because it makes you focus, clears your head, right? And if you don't have ADHD, rather than taking you from ADHD to neurotypical, it takes you from neurotypical to fucking wired. They get wired, and then they keep doing it. But the problem is that ADHD meds are expensive because they're safe. You know what's cheap and easily accessible? Methamphetamine, which, makes you behave like that and runs the risk of giving you psychosis. But it's fine. You can go on live television behaving like that. It's totally cool. So, understandably, after a huge amount of media backlash, Alex Karp backpedals, and he creates the Neurodivergent League, headquartered in New York and Washington, D.C., meant to recruit neurodivergent people into Palantir and similar companies, because neurodivergent people can see through performative ideologies in ways that only art or technology can. That's a cool quote. But you might be thinking, okay, so is he neurodivergent? Is Mr. Another Pen being deeply insensitive to the way that this man behaves? Well, I looked into it. Alex Karp is neurodivergent. But neurodivergent covers a huge topics of disorders, ranging from educational disabilities to behavioral disorders, right? And Mr. Alex Karp has dyslexia. Dyslexia. That's where you can't read words properly. That's not where you go upside down in your chair on live television. That one doesn't happen when you have dyslexia. Now, obviously, no one is under any kind of obligation to make any kind of revelations about their diagnoses. I personally will say that I strongly relate to the neurodivergent experience, and I am not going to tell you what I am or am not diagnosed with, because frankly, it's none of the internet's fucking business. But I have a very deep and personal understanding of neurodivergence and how it can affect one's behavior in personal life. I make YouTube videos, guys. Come on. So, maybe Mr. Carp is, like, super stimming out on the stage there, and I'm just being comedically insensitive. Or maybe if it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, and it looks like a duck, the motherfucker was high on stage. Just throwing it out there. Spotify's CEO. Spotify's, at this time that this video is releasing, I believe, former CEO and founder, Daniel Ek, has gotten himself in quite the pickle lately. Now, imagine, you've built a music empire, and you are worth $8.4 billion. If you made a few $1,000 every week from the time the dinosaurs died until this moment in history, you wouldn't even have $1 billion. That's how much money that this motherfucker has. And he has 8 times $1 billion. It's more money than 100 people could reasonably spend in their lifetimes, unless they got, like, blackmailed or developed hard drug problems, like a certain someone we've already talked about on this Iceberg. So, you have $8.4 billion, enough money to fundamentally change the world. In the current systems of capitalism that we live under, you're functionally a god. What would you decide to do with that money? Well, if you were Daniel Ek, Spotify founder and former CEO, you would invest $600 million into an AI weapons company. That's right. You wouldn't do anything for the betterment of the world, or like music, where you built your whole career and shtick from. Nope. Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's his money, what's the problem with that? And on one hand, yeah, it sure is his money, and it's more money than most people will ever fucking see in their lifetimes, certainly more than almost anyone will ever touch in their lifetimes. But, I think there's something fundamentally wrong about, let's put ChatGPT Model 5.5 into a fucking kill you bot. Something tells me that's not a good idea. Like, don't get me wrong. The cost of human life is utterly tragic, and it should never happen. But the next step in that is not making AI soldiers. It's not making robots. It's not having them fight the wars for us. It is eliminating the need for wars itself. If anything, if we make the fucking robots fight each other, it's just going to get worse, because now there's not people dying for it. It's a similar thing to, like, when bows and slings were brought around. Suddenly you could kill a man at a distance. You didn't have to look him in the eye when you did it. Kinda unethical, right? Like, if you really think about it, if you're gonna kill somebody, isn't it fair that you at least address them, look at them? Wouldn't it be robbing them of some fundamental respect they deserved as a human to not at least give them that if you absolutely needed to kill them? Better yet, isn't killing people a fundamentally fucked up thing that robs you of something intimate and human, and robs another person of something as precious as a life? Simple fact is, as far as we know, you only get one of those. Kind of fucked up to kill somebody, you know, just a teeny little tiny bit. And even more fucked up to be like, hey guys, I'm a billionaire. What am I doing with $500 million? I'm making money off of killing you. Straight up profiting off of your death. That's on the nose. If I wrote a book with that and I showed it to an editor, they'd be like, dude, you have to change that. You can't, that's too obvious. That can't go in there. And yet here the fuck we are. Anyway, fuck Spotify. Fuck weaponized AI. Peace and love on planet Earth. Class action lawsuits against AI companies. Oh, it brings a smile to my face. It really does. What's going on there? What's up with that? So, you remember how at the start of this whole little iceberg, when I went over what is AI, how does it work, I talked about how they stole all of the data off of the internet and like out of most libraries and just plugged it in to the little piece of shit theft bot. Yeah, so that's super illegal. That's straight up legally classified as theft and copyright infringement and a lot of other things. And mostly, it's wrong. And naturally, these companies are being supersued for it because it's illegal. You can't do that, guys. For example, if I were to take the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones, shit, maybe even the first 7, because, you know, those ones were good, and I were to upload them all on my channel and be like, yeah, me, Mr. Another Pen, the flannels and tie and suit guy, I made that. HBO would have my head on a fucking platter, and I'd be obliterated. Like a little ant under a boot, right? That's how that would go. But for some reason, these companies, these absolute dipshits, on Discord, by the way, talking about this on Discord of all places, these are the kind of people we're talking about, kind of people discuss business plans on Discord, have openly been like, yeah, we stole it. You what it? You've made a product exclusively with stolen materials? They didn't ask anyone for any kind of permission. They didn't talk to anybody. They didn't pay anybody. They just went, yep, the internet's there. Upload it, upload it, upload it, upload it. And now they made these. And they made these off of people's livings. I can't begin to understate that. There are artists that I know and that I like personally know and that I follow and that I appreciate who had changed the entire way they draw because their art was wrongfully uploaded to an AI model, and suddenly the AI generated art, because it can't create anything, it regurgitates it, was regurgitating art that looked like theirs. There are people I know who are authors, who are writers, who had to change the entire way their writing style is because AI just regurgitates it. There's a billion fucking photographers out there who every day upload a sick-ass photo that's real, and there's comments going, it's AI. You can't even upload a funny little clip onto fucking Instagram Reels anymore without someone commenting a gif of, actually, this is AI. Because there's just no way for the average person to be able to tell. There's times that I get it wrong, and I fucking despise AI. So, essentially, AI has a specific style that it prefers. A style built off of actual living human beings. And now, a shitload of AI companies have lawsuits against them. I'm actually going to have a lawsuit tracker scrolling down the screen right now, so you can just get a glimpse at like the abstract and the plaintiffs and the defendants. Pretty much every big name is being sued, and rightfully so, because they fucking deserve it. I hope the courts take them to the fucking moon and back. They fucked them so hard. I want it to be the kind of slam dunk case where the judge says, Sam Altman, you need to give up your dog. If I was an artist or a body or an entity suing an AI company, I'd be coming for their houses, their cars. I'd take the dog. I would. No regrets. I give it a happy life, but I will take your fucking dog. Anyway, before I get too heated, before I lose my cool there, AI companies have a shit ton of class action lawsuits because the way that they are fucking fundamentally built is illegal and off of exploitation and robs people of their livelihoods, and what they're hoping to do is profit off of robbing more people of their livelihoods. Do you think it's just the gay kids on Twitter who draw shit that are gonna lose their jobs? No, dude. They're gonna go for you next. Meta sued for torrenting porn. This is just another one that's so delightful to hear about. It's fucking absurd, too. So, when an AI company is training its model, right, it's going to have a lot of downloads of information. And a great way to do that is through torrent, right? Because you've got to download all that shit, and then you've got to plug it through your computer and run it through your algorithm, because coding is what AI runs on ultimately. And then eventually it'll be able to make that. So, in Q3 of 2025, Meta, the company behind Facebook, owned by Schmuckerberg himself, was hit with a lawsuit by a company called Strike 3 that produces porn videos, because 2,400 pornographic videos had been torrented by Meta over the span of a few years. And what they were alleging is that Facebook was using it to train its AI model on adult content. Because you have to have a shit ton of information before it can start to spit anything out. You know, if you want to make AI porn, you gotta download a lot of porn. Let us not have our minds in the gutter. And take a look at the facts of the case. So, Meta did torrent over 2,400 pornographic videos produced by the company Strike 3. Strike 3, alleging that Meta was trying to use these stolen pornographic videos to train their AI, goes to the courts and is like, "Hey boss, I want $330 million from that chump right there." What does Meta do? Well, Meta goes, "Guys, what the fuck? We're not training AI on that." Which leads to the utterly absurd headline: Meta claims 2,400 pornographic videos were for personal use. Now, the torrents of these videos began in 2018, which is long before any public information was available about Meta's AI programs. If they are to be believed, that started 4 years later in 2022, which is 4 years ago now, by the time that this video comes out. Isn't that a haunting little fact? The, like, impermanence of the present and the constant shift forward of time? Woo! But, back on topic. So this was 4 years before Meta was officially in any capacity working on AI. Maybe they were working on AI in the background, but would they really start with porn? Probably not. And as the case currently stands, it has been requested to be thrown out of the district courts for being frivolous, because Strike 3 has a reputation and has gained notoriety for basically having extortion lawsuits, where someone will do something with one of their videos and then they'll be like, "Oh, you're gonna give me a shit ton of money!" And because they're a company with the rights to porn, basically their whole business model is they'll file a suit for a ton of money, and then the defendants of the suit will meet with the plaintiff, and they'll have a little conversation, and then they'll settle it out of the court. And sure, Strike 3 doesn't get all the money they were asking for, but they get more money than if they hadn't done that to begin with. So, if we're following this, essentially what they tried to do was this silly little porn production company, which is already its own deeply unethical thing, depending on how that place is run, which is probably not good, decides they're gonna sue a tech giant and be like, "Yo guys, they're training AI porn. They're training the AI on it." Once again, though, the concept of AI porn is something that I had to legitimately think about while researching this Iceberg. That was fun. It's also just not right. Like, really not right. Because of the whole, like, AI only regurgitates thing. Like, that's still going to be basically someone's face on there. You're just asking AI to put somebody's face on a body and then be like, make him fuck. It's pretty fucked up. I think intimacy is something that should be shared between human beings. And like, look, man, if you gotta crank the hog, you gotta crank the hog. I get it. When I was single, I was there. I was like, fuck. You can crank the hog to words written by a person, to someone's lovely experience posted on www.reddit.com. Like, there's ethical ways to jerk your shit. It's possible. It's out there. You don't have to, like, go to Bang Bros and watch, sexual assault simulator video. And you definitely don't have to go to AI and be like, hey, can you make two demonic entities that vaguely resemble a human being have sex for me? It's a similar vein to the people who claim to be dating AI, which is a thing that we will be touching on later in this iceberg, where it's kind of sickening. Like, that's a people thing. Don't make the computers do that, pretty please. Anyway, utterly absurd headline. Meta claims 2,400 pornographic videos were for personal use. 2025, baby. It was a beautiful year, wasn't it? Hello, everybody. We're taking a quick little break from the AI iceberg of hopefully somewhat funny, but also, like, mostly really fucked up shit that everyone would rather not be happening, except for a slim margin of people who for some reason hope that, like, the working class loses their jobs. We're taking this break so that we can talk about me, which will not be as entertaining. Hi, I'm another pen. That's me. I'm the guy who made this video. Whoa, shocking. Some context about me. I've wanted to be a YouTuber since I was 16. You're currently watching my video right now. I'm 22. Big shocker. I make these videos because I truly love making them, and I want to improve people's day and entertain them, and I think that I am the best version of myself when I am doing something that serves others. That's my whole reason behind doing stuff like this. I also write books, I make movies, I write short stories, a ton of stuff, right? Super cool, super awesome. The reason that I'm interrupting your entertainment right now is to beg. Like a destitute person. Essentially, if you like this video, if you're still here in this video, go ahead, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't. If you like this video and you subscribe, you're just gonna get more videos like this. And if you decide you fucking hate me later and my opinions suck ass and I should perish, you can just unsubscribe. You can unclick that button. Another thing you can do if you're already subscribed is you can go check out me and my co-director's film studio that also tells you super cool stuff like my full legal name if you decide you want to dox me. So that's there. And you can go into the links in my bio and check everything out. I should have writing battles in there. That is where I write short stories for international competitions. You can go read that if you decide you want to see what's going on in my strange little head. Or if you're not really a big reader, another thing you can do is you can check out my Patreon. Now, YouTube is kind of a gamble, because if people watch my videos and my rates are high, YouTube will pay me a decent amount of money per 1,000 views. If people aren't watching my videos, which is fair because I've been fucking inconsistent as shit for the last 3 years in uploading, I'm not getting any money from that. And I'm broke. I don't have wealthy parents. I don't have any family members in the town I live in. I don't really have much of a fallback system. It is just me and my little shit-ass apartment against the world. And I'm blessed in a lot of ways, but financially is not one of them at the time that I make this video. And I don't like having to be like, can you guys please give me money? But I am trying to do this as a career. So if you want to subscribe to my Patreon, please do. I post on there occasionally. You get to see like an insight to what's going on in the videos, how the production's going. Another thing you can do is you can subscribe to my film studio's Patreon. That goes directly to my film studio, not to me. And there's also a Ko-Fi in there, and Ko-Fi is a little different from Patreon, because Patreon has like the monthly commitment. You subscribe, you're paying every month. Ko-Fi, you can be like, alright, fine, you shitty little twerp-ass Charles Dickens orphan. I'll give you $5 one time, and then you can go fuck off. And that's also a cool place to support me. Thanks for still being here. Hopefully you didn't click off of the video. If you did, that's fine. I hope you have a wonderful day. But we're going to go ahead and get back into the Iceberg now. So, thanks again. I really appreciate you still being here. Alright, bye! The AI bubble and the economy. This one could bring a smile to my face. It doesn't just yet, because it hasn't happened. But let's go ahead and talk numbers real quick. Now, before we talk numbers, we have to talk acronyms. So, for those of you who don't know what a GDP is, that is a gross domestic product. Essentially, the GDP is a number that determines the overall value of a country and everything happening inside of it, and all of the productivity and all of the worth, right? If you have a high GDP, that means you're a rich country. If you have a low GDP, that means you broke as shit, boy. Now, America has traditionally had a very high GDP. We're the wealthiest country in the world because we have a bunch of rich dipshits that live here because they can buy the government. Super fun stuff, right? So even though we're a wealthy country, we have all of these problems, yada, 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 whatever. How are we doing in 2025, though? See, in 2025, that was the first year of Donald Trump's second term, which has been really annoying to grapple with, because if he hadn't been elected, I wouldn't be talking on the computer right now. I'd be working for the Forest Service, but, you know, that's a story for a different time. 2025, Donald Trump makes a bunch of really bad decisions. See, the United States government operated off what is called soft power. Now, there's different kinds of power out there. You can point a gun at someone and go, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and that's power built off of fear. And fear is a dangerous thing because it's a temporary thing and it expires, it goes away, right? Like, if you have something, if you have that tension suddenly resolved, the gun is out, they're gonna be scared, the gun's gonna be put away, they're gonna be traumatized. Soft power is a different kind of power. It's implying that you have a gun in your pocket, but you're willing to talk. See, the United States, since World War II, has had this cool little thing called the power of the fucking sun it can drop on you, on top of the world's largest military. They've gotten to act as the world police and do basically whatever the fuck they want, decide to invade people off of bogus claims of weapons of mass destruction. And they've gotten away with this because who's going to stop them? And better yet, who's going to step up and try? We have the biggest GDP in the world. We're the richest country. Why the fuck would you mess with that as a business partner? You wouldn't. It'd be a terrible idea. So yeah, you just kind of nod your head, go along with it, and then when that guy's not in the room, you go, man, I don't fucking like him. The utter economic genius of the man who bankrupted several casinos, literal money printers, decided he had a better way. See, the U.S. wasn't making enough money. We had all these deals to exert that soft power where it'd be like, yeah, sure, we'll ship this to you and we'll lower the cost. They were still making a shit ton of money off of that, but no, that's a bad idea. As a matter of fact, what we need to do is we need to tariff everything. And by tariffing things, that means that less shit is going into the country because now everybody has to pay more and that cost is offloaded to the consumer. Which means that your consumer shares of the market are going to fucking drastically fly downwards. The reasoning behind this is this short-sighted claim to try and bring back manufacturing jobs to America. But the problem with that is that the manufacturing jobs have been gone for a long time. And also, have you seen the American workforce? Do you think we could put a single fucking one of them into a sweatshop? Not really. Nobody should be in a sweatshop regardless, but, like, if you look at the people in America, like, Tim the office worker is not going to survive. He's gonna die in there, man. So that all being said, essentially, this delusional, 80-year-old piece of shit has this really stupid idea, and he's surrounded by a bunch of sycophant idiot yes men, and they all go, oh my god, such a great idea, please let me suck your dick. And Donald Trump's like, okay, I've done it, I'm gonna sign the paper, or whatever the fuck it is that he says. And now everyone's being tariffed, and what that means is that the economy, bad, very bad for the economy. Nobody wants to do business with us anymore. Because rather than being like, well, I could fuck with you, the United States government's like, oop, I'm gonna fuck with you. Just kidding. I'm gonna fuck with you. I have a gun. Oh, I'm putting it away. Nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody's gonna do business with that. We're not fucking kids. This is in the schoolyard playground. You can't go be like, Timmy, give me your lunch money. It's not gonna work. This is a real fucking world out here, man. So the economy's not doing good. But rather than just straight up plummeting, like it should, in 2025, what the economy instead did was it kind of like it treaded water a little bit. So in spite of all of these sectors shrinking and all of this damage to business and everything costing more, and the cost of living, which, mind you, dipshit Supreme there ran on reducing, skyrocketing, the economy is treading water, and I use that term loosely. How's that happening? Easy. There's a bubble. There's a huge bubble. Now, for the uninitiated, an economic bubble is when there is a lot of money in something that there shouldn't be a lot of money in. The market has this really cool way of leveling itself out. So, like, people buy in to a company, right? They get shares. And those shares are divvied up based off of how many are available and how valuable the company is estimated to be. So if you have a very high value company, you're going to be able to have a very expensive share. If you don't have a very high value company, your share is going to cost like $5, right? Nobody's going to pay fucking shit for it because it's not going to do anything for them. Now, if you have a company with a high perceived value, you still get the expensive shares. People still have to pay you a lot of money to own a part of your company. But the problem is, if you don't deliver on that anticipated high value, the share is going to decrease in value. You're going to lose a lot of money. Everybody's going to lose a lot of money. So, 40% of the GDP growth this year, which isn't a lot, was AI. That means that according to the rules that we follow, the economy that we have, AI should have accounted for 40% of the growth of this country and its gross domestic product, its value that it is providing to society. Now, bear in mind, we didn't really grow a lot in 2025, but the fact that almost half of it was AI isn't good, because what exactly is AI doing? What does it do? It uses a ton of water, and it's incorrect half the time. And it has a really fucking unbearable writing style. It's not just blank, it's blank, hyphen. And it's not just doing something, it's actually doing something else. Exclamation mark. And here's how this is emotion. It's extremely formulaic, it's predictive, you know? And like, a lot of stupid people out here are like, this is my best friend ever. And I'm sorry if you're one of those people. This is a stupid fucking thing to do. But it's not providing any legitimate value to the world. As a matter of fact, it's coming at an extreme cost. It's costing everyone a lot, both in a philosophical way and in a literal way, directly, by increasing power prices and water prices and reducing a very limited, valuable resource that we have in water. And also now you can't buy NVIDIA fucking RAM sticks anymore because it's all going to the AI shitlords. So the AI isn't doing anything for the economy. It's not generating anything. It's not useful enough to be practically widespread and used in everything because it fucking sucks at its job. And essentially what it's being used for right now is people too lazy to write their grocery lists, so they have the fucking robot do it for them because the robot should decide what you eat. That's great thinking, everyone. And yet it accounts for almost half of the domestic product growth. And it gets even more freaky deakier when you take a look at what stocks made people money, 80% of stock gains in 2025, where you invested money and you got more back than what you bought in for, were for AI. So the stock prices are rising and rising and rising, and that growth is going up, and that GDP is being estimated at something. But what is the actual productivity level of that? What is it doing? How is it helping the economy? Unless you're like in coding, it's not really. I mean, like, you can have ChatGPT write a line of code. It's a fucking machine. Of course it can do that, but can't have it write a book. Not a good one. Can't have it make a picture. Not a good one. Can't make porn with it, as discussed earlier in the Iceberg. Where's this money going? What's this money doing? How are we making this money back? We're not. And that's why it's a bubble. It's a bubble so much so that Michael Blurry, a name you may or may not know, put a short call of $1.1 billion on Palantir and other AI companies. Now, Michael Blurry, who is that guy? Why do you need to know who he is? That's a guy who called the 2008 recession globally. He made a fucking shit ton of money, because what he did was he studied the market and he saw that these mortgage companies were giving out bad mortgages to people who couldn't pay them back, and he went, holy shit, there's a bubble. These mortgage companies are evaluated too high. Now, stocks are basically legal gambling, so you can go to stock distributors and be like, hello, I'd like to purchase an option. And an option is a way of placing a bet. You place a bet on whether or not it's going to do good or it's going to do bad. And if it does whatever you think, whatever you bet it does, you get a ton of money back. Super awesome, right? So he invested a huge sum of money against the housing market. The housing market fucking implodes. He's ultra rich now. Good for him. And this guy has done this a few times with a few different things. His investments have almost always come back up for him. As a matter of fact, I haven't read about a time the guy's been wrong. I'm sure it's out there, but I haven't read it. And he invested $1.1 billion against AI. If the dude with autism, whose hyperfixation is predicting when the economy crashes, thinks that Palantir is going to crash the economy, and the CEO of Palantir is going on stage and doing what appears to be some interesting movements that could be inspired by certain substances, I know whose side I'm going to pick. So that is why I say there is an AI bubble in the economy. This could be its own video on its own. At this point, it probably fucking should be, because we're getting to a huge amount of time. But last topic before I move on. What happens when that bubble pops? Easy. Everyone loses a shit ton of money. The economy goes down. Everyone goes, freak the fuck out and sell everything. It's over. They post that little Warren Buffett meme. It's pretty funny. And these companies go away. This has happened before in tech. It was called the dot-com bubble. Basically, in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you didn't have a website, investors didn't want to fucking look at you. And as a result, everyone had a website, an online storefront, somewhere you could go on the internet. But the problem is there was too many of them. There's way too many of them. People only want to go to a few websites, right? Like, surfing the web is cool and all, but you can only have a few companies built off of it. So what happened is it crashed, which Michael Blurry also predicted, by the way. Also made money off of that one. And all of these web companies were fucking obliterated and dissolved, and then Google and Microsoft, and not really, but technically on the list, Mozilla Firefox, all survived. And they have come out of that. Now they're the net companies. And now if you try to make an internet company, it's not really going to happen. Another honorable mention from the dot-com bubble is Amazon. They're also up there. Because there's Google and Microsoft and Amazon, and not really, but still on the list, I guess, Firefox, all of these companies have filled that niche. There's no more need for any more dot-com companies. So nobody makes them anymore. It's not really a good thing. If you have a company, sure, you'll have a website, but you're not trying to control the web. That's already controlled. It's already owned. And a very similar thing is going to happen. Right now, everybody's trying to make a fucking AI model, which is, dubious at best. It's not very good. And essentially, AIs are these large language machines. I should have touched on this earlier in the video, really. But it's a type of program that can be coded, and it takes all that aggregate data that I talked about. So it's not really original, what everyone's doing. And everyone has a company doing that right now, but there's not really a demand for it. So when that bubble pops, and it will pop, trust me, it's going to, there's going to be a period of people being like, oh my god, I lost all my money and now I can't jerk off. Fuck! And then there's going to be like 2, maybe 3 companies that come out of that crash and are still doing AI. And they'll keep doing AI for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. But there's not going to be like, we put AI in your children's toys. Anyway. Up next on this iceberg, we have Palantir. Palantir is here for a reason. It's been mentioned a few times. You might be wondering, what exactly is Palantir? Palantir is the name of an artifact in Tolkien's mythos that allows you to see things. It also makes you get insane really quickly because it is super easily corrupted by, the big bad of the Lord of the Rings. And we're going to leave it at that because the Lord of the Rings is its own video topic. So, some guy named Peter Thiel goes ahead and founds a company named after the orb that makes you go insane. And why does he found this company? Well, it's simple. Peter Thiel got his big start at PayPal, a company that started quite a few of the tech billionaires these days. Now, PayPal had a problem. It was handling money. Right? Handling money is never a clean business. Money is inherently not a clean thing. There's a lot of dirty money out there. There's a lot of fraud about money out there. So PayPal had this issue where people were using it to commit fraud, or they were committing fraud and taking money from PayPal, and PayPal had to clean up this whole operation. The answer as to why he started Palantir is because he was, quote, inspired by PayPal's anti-fraud services, and he wanted to create a service that could reduce crime and terrorism while, quote, preserving civil liberties. Now that's ominous and vague, and it leaves a lot of room for interpretation, because how exactly is a tech company supposed to prevent crime? Well, here's what Palantir actually does. Palantir, as a company, is essentially a data analysis company. Palantir does not collect any data. All of that data is already collected. But the problem is that normally people collecting huge amounts of data on other people have no actual practical way of sifting through all of it and fixing everything. It would require a total upheaval of the current software foundations that the government and a lot of big businesses have. This is where Palantir comes in. Palantir is effectively a technological band-aid. You can use Palantir's software and services to parse through all of this massive data you collect and make assumptions based off of it and find facts based off of it without having to actually change the software you're using. So, Palantir was founded in 2003 as a defense company. It spends the next 20 years not making any profits. The company is a loss of money, it's bleeding a lot, and it's promising a lot of things that aren't quite practical just yet, because it's 2003 when they started. Sure, you can collect all of this data, and now you have a tool to help you analyze it, but what exactly are you going to do with all of this massive amount of analysis? Not much. There was, for a time, too much data for any person to be able to sift through, and that is still true. Where Palantir starts to make its big turnaround, its big comeuppance, its big show-off, if you will, is first in 2018, when at the time Vice President Joe Biden goes to the White House, starts talking about things, and suddenly Palantir lands a contract helping investigate fraud within the U.S. government. Basically, their software is now being used for analysis of U.S. government databases, and as a result, they're landing a ton of money around this. But there's still a lot of ethical concerns, because if you really look into the meat and potatoes of what Peter Thiel was saying, use a data analysis company to prevent crime while protecting civil liberties, how do you do that? You catch a crime before it happens by making an assumption based off of data that is collected directly from people's lives. So there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of concern about the fact that this company's mission statement apparently is to watch every aspect of every person's life to be able to prevent terrorism Recently, what Palantir has had its huge comeuppance in and made a ton of money in is U.S. defense contracts, because now Palantir is being integrated into even more departments of the United States government. It is being used by the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, the Internal Revenue Service, and other services that are supposed to be offered to the American public to analyze, collect, and to analyze all of the data that they're getting. It's being used to make assumptions. Palantir is also a huge proponent of AI. They have an AI platform designed specifically for war. It is meant to use, essentially, a large language model chatbot, very similar to what you see in ChatGPT, to help soldiers make decisions. But the problem is, in war, we've talked about this earlier, why the fuck would you make an AI that kills people, that helps someone else kill people? It's a bad product on an ethical level. Sure, it can be sold, but the question is not, can it be sold? The question is, should it be sold? And from most reasonable standpoints, no. But if you're the Donald Trump administration, your answer is yes. Yes, it can. As a matter of fact, yes, it should, because that's a kind of overreach that we live under currently. So Palantir is essentially a company that sort of acts as this like harbinger of doom, because it is trying to protect your civil liberties by observing everything that people do and analyzing the data based off of those observations that people do. Now, again, as a disclaimer, Palantir itself is not doing the observation. The government or the Chrysler company, for some reason, are already doing all of the observing. Palantir is just aiding them in the analyzing, and they're helping them parse through that data at a cheap rate without having to make them completely redo their entire software systems, which is a Herculean task that will have to be done eventually, and it's going to fuck shit up a lot when it does have to be done. So Palantir is essentially a technological band-aid you can slap on things to surveil your citizens better. And they make a business model of that. And Peter Thiel, the owner of Palantir, is quite the interesting character, who I will be talking about later, because he has a lot of very strange beliefs. He was a conservative nerd in the 1980s who goes on to name a bunch of evil-ass technology after a low-key evil-ass artifact. Maybe not the best guy. Maybe not the best guy around. Maybe not the best company around. Starting up the next level of the iceberg, we have AI psychosis. Now, you've probably wondered to yourself at some point or another, man, why are rich people like that? It's a very simple question. Why do they have these heads so big? Why do they have these delusional ideas that to the average person are utterly nonsensical and yet to them seem utterly fundamental to the basics of reality itself? And it's simple. Very wealthy people oftentimes can't handle criticism, and as a result, they surround themselves by a bunch of sycophant yes-men, like kings from the past. They don't have anyone in their court who will tell them no. They don't have anyone who will tell them that's a bad idea, and you shouldn't do that. They don't have people who will criticize them, because they're billionaires. Why would they need that? Now, how exactly do large language model companions or chatbots behave? When you talk to any chatbot, when you talk to any AI product, it's simple. It doesn't disagree with you. It just tells you that you're right, or it vindicates your beliefs, or it justifies your wrongdoings. It makes excuses for you. It makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel smart. It makes you feel special. Now, when you unleash that upon the general public, suddenly everyone has that in their life. A sycophant yes-man who will never criticize them, never tell them they're wrong. They'll encourage their beliefs. They'll justify their wrongdoings. They'll come up with excuses. They'll do anything to keep these people on the platform for just a second longer, to make them ask one more question, one more sentence, one more bit of conversation. This is not good. As a matter of fact, a fundamental constant of life is sometimes you're going to be fucking stupid, and you're going to have a bad idea, and you're going to be a dick. And the challenge of life, the battle that we all face, is not never being these things, it's minimizing being these things, and more importantly, taking accountability when you are these things. When you do something wrong, it's important that 1, you own that shit, you own that you fucked up, and 2, you do what you can to fix it. But suddenly, all of these average people have something in their life that removes the need to do that, the pressure to do that. It makes excuses for them, right? I've said that a few times now. I'm saying it for a reason. So, you give all of these people what is essentially a scheming royal eunuch in their shoulder, in their phone, in their pocket that they can talk to at any time. Shit's gonna start to get weird. And as a result, we're seeing many cases of AI psychosis. There was a man who was driven to murder people by AI. There are people who are claiming to have religious revelations after talking to AI. There are people who claim to be the Messiah or to know how the end times will come about after talking to AI. There are people claiming to date AI out there, for fuck's sakes. Can you date a chatbot? No. You just simply can't. It's not a human being. You can't have a human relationship with it. The best that you could have is being manipulated by the manipulates you and tells you lies machine, and a lot of people are doing that, and as a result, it's having a very, very bad effect on the average public person, the average American, at least. I haven't read much about AI psychosis happening in other countries, but in other countries, AI is not shoved down your throat as much. So essentially, AI psychosis is people losing their minds after spending too much time talking to the chatbot that constantly agrees with them. Because the simple fact is that sometimes you're going to say some dumb shit and nobody's going to agree with it. And nobody needs to agree with it, because if somebody agrees with it, bad things are going to happen. Bad things are happening as a result of this. People are losing their minds, going insane, killing people after talking to AI chatbots. And now this isn't everyone, this isn't a like, ooh, all video games are bad kind of thing, but it is a thing that's duly noted, because I have not really known mentally stable people to go play GTA 5 and then decide that they're going to kill a prostitute, but I have certainly read about people who talk to ChatGPT Model 5 and then they decide that they're going to go out and claim that they're Jesus, or that they have some knowledge that other people don't. It's a problem. Up next on this iceberg, we have AI influencers. This is not a new concept. As a matter of fact, I have talked about this concept on my channel before. AI influencers are a product made to sell you more products. Now, there's a sentiment online that there is, quote, no such thing as an influencer, that they don't exist, they're not real, they're not out there. That's not true. There is an influencer, and what does an influencer do? Well, they influence your opinions. Contrary to the creators of the world who make things and those influence your opinions, the influencer exists purely to give an opinion to you, to make you think you should have something, or should do something, or should be something. Influencers exist prominently on short-form content platforms, but they are here on YouTube as well. They're people who incessantly try to tell you products. They are people who stand for nothing, and they are people who are looking cool, but don't actually have any of the aspects of being cool, like knowing themselves or being self-assured, behind them. It's all a facade. Now, AI influencers are on the rise because an influencer is fundamentally a product themselves. Oftentimes, influencers are paid by companies to give you these opinions, to try and sell you these products, to try and make you be these things. Fitness influencers, for example, exist, and they're not necessarily creating anything with their physique. They're trying to convince you that you should have their physique. Beauty influencers exist as well, and they're not creating anything with their beauty. They're trying to convince you that you need to be beautiful like them. Product influencers are out there. They're not creating anything with these products. They're trying to convince you to buy these products. The thing is that people with this temperament tend to be sleazy, volatile, arrogant, and generally not the best to work with. They have their big moment, and then they crash and burn, and next thing you know, they're trying to sell you fucking MyPillow for the rest of their lives, right? These are the kind of people who used to make shitty infomercials back in the day, and now with the advent of social media, can just desperately try to garner a few more clicks, a few more minutes of watch time. Why have them? It's a logical question. Why? Now, with the advent of AI that can create something that looks enough like a person, talks enough like a person, and behaves enough like a person, you can replace the influencer, because the influencer isn't necessarily a person anymore. They're products. Their own opinions aren't out there. Their opinions are bought and paid for. Their opinions are trying to convince you to be something, buy something, or do something. You can have AI do that easy. Now, as a result, we're seeing AI influencers on the rise, and we're also seeing, horrifyingly enough, AI bans come out where these people are claiming to be artists when all they've done is type into ChatGPT and then take the regurgitated slop it goes out and upload it to Spotify. And we even have, as despicable as it is, an AI actress, a woman completely generated by AI who looks young and is in a few movies that are surely destined to be box office flops because they couldn't even go so far as to find an actual young woman to act in their fucking movie. Why would they pay a woman to do that? They would never pay a woman to do that. They can have the AI do that because they're not actually writing a woman, they're writing a product. It's a sort of deep, fucked up, twisted misogyny, and AI influencers are a sort of deep, fucked up, twisted dehumanization. And as a result, we're seeing more and more of them on the rise. There are AI channels, there are AI people out there. And they're selling you products and beliefs and telling you that you need to be a certain thing, all the while not being real themselves. The consequence and cost of AI data centers. There's less than 1,000 AI data centers in the world as far as I know when I'm making this video. There will probably be more than 1,000 by the time this video comes out. All of the countries across the world are rushing to have infrastructure that can support AI data centers and just get a little bit of that sweet, sweet money. But what exactly do AI data centers do? Easy. They're big warehouses with a shit ton of computers in them, and those computers do nothing but run the large language models all day, and as a result, they require a ton of power. And also as a result, if you ever had a computer on doing a complex thing for very long, I'm sure fellow creators understand the concept of your laptop heating up to fucking atomic temperatures as it desperately tries to export a file. Imagine that 24/7, all the time. The computer's always running, just close to their limit. Not quite enough to overwhelm it, but just enough to make it stress out a little. It gets hot, and as a result, these AI data centers need to be cooled. And the geniuses who built them built 600 of the currently existing AI data centers, and soon to be even more data centers, in places that aren't naturally cold. They built them in warm places where there's hot summers, which means that you also have the outside threatening to bake your machines and make a very big, very toxic fire. And suddenly, poof, no more AI. Such a thing won't come to pass, though, because they have cooling systems, and those cooling systems run off of water. They run off of a huge amount of water. Now, the use of water that is done by AI is not anywhere near the use of water for industrial practices or for farming purposes. But the difference is that industrial practices and farming purposes are already accounted for. It's easy to expand them a little bit more. It's much harder to create an entirely new kind of water usage. And as a result, people are having their water taken away from them, and the environment is having water taken away from it. So you're seeing these AI data centers go next to lakes, next to rivers, next to water sources that people need to drink, and suddenly all of this water is gone. Water pressure stops coming out of the faucets. Clean water doesn't become a thing that really exists anymore because that needs to be used so Coca-Cola can make an advertisement, you silly little fucking peasant. So one, the water cost is skyrocketing and the water availability is decreasing. And two, they require a shit ton of power because you're running a warehouse full of computers. So now power costs are skyrocketing and power costs are increasing, and that is how it directly impacts you. Let's talk about how it impacts the environment. Because it is releasing emissions in the form of the coolant systems running, the air conditioning needed to have it, the manufacturing needed to even produce it, we are suddenly having more gases in the air, which is making the world a hotter place. Now, there's this huge disconnect between people and the climate, and I hear a lot of people go, well, climate change isn't really a problem. And I would ask to those people and to you, where do you live? What is it in? Simple fact is we all live in the climate, and the climate changing is a problem for that very reason. We live there. So things are becoming less affordable because of AI, health standards are going down because there's less accessible water because of AI, and the climate is increasing more, which is going to kill people because of AI. And that is a very simple, very brief delve into the cost and the impact of AI and its data centers on the environment. There's a lot more about this, but I didn't write up a whole thesis just yet, so there's no essay to be spoken in this portion of the video. An essay may come later, though. Average user sentiment of AI. Really, I should have put this as average person's sentiment of AI. That was kind of a typo on my behalf. Sorry, everybody. I made the iceberg. So as it currently stands, when I make this video, and it may change by the time this video comes out, because it'll be a few months. Sorry, sweaty. AI opinions are in 3 categories. About 33% of the population really likes AI. ChatGPT, for example, recently had 800 million active users. That's almost 1 billion people. That's almost 1/8 of every person on the planet using this shitty little water-gulping lying product. And they love it. They want more of it. About 33% of people don't give a shit. The average person is stunningly unopinionated, a topic I've talked about beforehand. The average person doesn't need to have opinions, and why would they? Opinions are hard to have, so they just don't have one. They don't really care. They don't swing one way or the other. And 33% of the population is very vehemently against AI. We're seeing a lot of backlash to companies trying to put products in AI. We're seeing a lot of backlash to the mere concept of AI art. We're seeing a lot of backlash to the push globally to have AI be a normalized thing. So as it stands, there are people who are very pro-AI, who think it is going to be every aspect of the future. There are people who don't really give a shit, and there are people who despise AI, and that is around the average split of the common folk, if you will. 1 in 3 people is going to like it, 1 in 3 people is going to hate it, 1 in 3 people is going to have no opinion either way. Now, those numbers are prone to changing as AI develops and as its consequences and its potential benefits, as much as I despise to say that, play out more. But simply put, the average user sentiment is not exactly high. We don't have an overwhelming support for AI. We just have a loud, really annoying third of people out there super for AI, at least in the American markets and most Western-dominated spaces. The corporate culture around AI, in America at least over the last year, we've seen the American market make a educated gamble. Essentially, what they're gambling on is that they'll be able to pump a ton of money into AI, get that money back, and then use the AI products and make money from it. But how do you make money from AI products? You don't necessarily, not if your business is running the same exact way it's going to be. Most businesses don't sell AI, but businesses could use AI, and they could get that money. But still, for it to be profitable, something has to go. And this is one of the most insidious things about the whole AI surge that I have seen, is that essentially the US government and the US market and most US businesses that are adopting AI are trying to invest in this technology and make money from this technology, so that way they can fucking fire people when it can do their jobs. So essentially what the US economy is stacked on right now is investing in a technology that will cost you, the average person, their job, their livelihood, their ability to eat, and they'll be able to save just a few more dollars by, cutting that money back. Now, this gets a lot more fucked up and evil when you realize that overhead costs actually cost most companies very little in comparison to how much money they make. So it's not about saving money or saving the business. Most large businesses can afford to pay people. It's simply about not doing it. It's about the 1% having even more money than they already do, more money than they could ever spend in a lifetime, and that money is taken directly out of your hand, your mouth, and your wallet. It's fucked up, right? That's why the corporate culture of AI is on here. The cognitive costs of AI. This is the very last entry on the iceberg, not because I think it is something that nobody knows about, but because it is something that I don't think people have put a lot of thought into. The brain is an interesting machine. It is a quantum supercomputer based off of some theories, and a biological supercomputer, in fact, that runs off of very little electricity, that gets its electricity from food, and somehow memorizes a lifespan worth of habits and patterns and details and memories. And it is incredibly efficient at what it does. And as a result, this efficiency is constantly being reworked. It's constantly being optimized. It's constantly being made better. at least to the extent that the brain can do it. That's why mastery is a thing. That's why you can get better at subjects. That's why you can be smarter. That's why you can adapt. But that adaptation can sometimes be not the best thing. There is a process called cognitive offloading. Essentially, the way cognitive offloading works is when your brain recognizes that it does not need to do a task because something else will do the task for it, it reduces its ability to do the task. If you don't use a skill for a long time, if it goes unmaintained, your brain will prioritize it less and less and less, and that skill will fade from you. That's why, the phrase just like riding a bike is a thing. You can stop riding a bike for 10 years and get back on it, sure, but you're not going to be as good as you were when you were 12 and biking everywhere. It'll come back, but the simple fact is that you weren't riding a bike. You're going to be rusty. You see this in a lot of sports. For example, I rock climb a lot. If you take a month off of rock climbing, your body and your brain are not going to have the same prowess that it did before you took that month off, because it doesn't need to physically keep all of that if you're not doing it all of the time. That's not good for survival, and that's what the brain is wired to do, survive. So, cognitive offloading has happened in a lot of things. It's happened in directional senses recently with the development of Google Maps and with other map products, because suddenly you no longer need to memorize everything about where you're going. There's something else to do it for you. And now, people who used to have town layouts like the back of their hand in their brain don't have that anymore because the map does it for them. They can just turn on the app and then it'll go. You also see it in complex math. It used to be that you didn't have a calculator, so if you didn't know how to divide long form, you were kind of shit out of luck because you couldn't divide anything. You couldn't do this very simple thing that you have to do constantly in day-to-day life. But with the advent of calculators, you no longer need to keep all of that information directly stored in your brain because now you can open up something and type it out. Now, with things like sense of direction and math, it's generally considered fine, right? It's normalized to an extent to have cognitively offloaded the ability to do these things, because you don't really need to do them. We have tools to help you. The insidious thing about AI, the bad thing about AI, is that it also contributes to cognitive offloading. Specifically with AI and how it is designed, the things that are cognitively offloaded are critical thought, memory, and communication. When you have something writing all of your messages for you, you don't need to remember how to write a message, so you don't. When you have something considering and evaluating things to come up with an opinion for you, you don't need to do it, so you won't. When you have something being human for you, your brain is wired to survive. It's going to stop dedicating energy to that. But the problem is that critical thinking and communication and memory, they're aspects of humanity itself. Someone is still a functional human being even if they can't do math. Someone is not a functional human being if they can't critically think. If you can't consider the options in front of you yourself without someone else's product, that is a sign for concern. But AI companies are attempting to sweep this under the rug and normalize this. Essentially, that third of the population we talked about that's a big fan of AI, that really likes it, they really like being stupid. Because that is what AI does to you. It reduces your ability to think. It reduces your capacity to be smart. It shreds your humanity as a whole. This doesn't mean that, smartness is the defining factor of humanity, but it's certainly an aspect. If you're fucking stupid, either you're going to have a great life because you're going to sleepwalk through it without ever realizing anything's wrong, you're going to have a bad life because you're going to be getting scammed and abused constantly. If you can't critically think, you're going to be stupid. If you can't remember anything, how are you supposed to be a human being? That's why memory loss is such a tragic thing. We see Alzheimer's and dementia ruin people's lives, and yet we're encouraging an equivalent to young people. That's evil. That's awful. So that's why I put it last on the iceberg. It was the last thing that I wanted to talk about. It's the cognitive costs of AI. These people are trying to profit off of you being a fucking moron. And if you aren't already a moron, they're trying to develop a technology that makes you a fucking moron. It's the start of Fahrenheit 451 that a product is released that summarizes books so people no longer need to read them, and this is considered the start of the downfall of society into what we see it in the book. How is it that we now have a product from the book Please Don't Kill Literacy in the real world? The Onion article, the meme, where it's like, groundbreaking, tech company has invented torture nexus, from story Please Don't Invent the Torture Nexus. We made the torture nexus. And now all of these businessmen are telling us that we're supposed to be super happy about it, that we're supposed to be thrilled about that. Doesn't that sound awful? Isn't that a terrible fucking idea? Alright, kids. We did it. We made it to the end of the video. This is a long one. As a matter of fact, I think this is like the longest video I've released since I've moved out of my parents' house. So hip hip hooray and 5 stars and a thumbs up for that, I guess. If you're still here watching this video and you liked this video and you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I'm trying something out with my YouTube format, which is what I call companion icebergs. Later this month, I have a video that is a video essay about AI, Palantir, and Peter Thiel in particular, that a lot of the topics on this iceberg will be relevant to. You can still watch the essay without having seen the iceberg, but seeing the iceberg will make seeing the essay a way more in-depth experience. Essentially, it is my attempt to do the thing that YouTube likes me doing, which is uploading iceberg videos, and also be able to make video essays. That all being said, I'm going to be doing that a lot more this year as I try it out. So if you like seeing a guy talk for an hour and a half, roughly, I don't know what this video will be when it's edited, probably somewhere like an hour and 15 minutes, about a topic and then drop another 30-minute video essay about it later, this is a place for you. If you thought this video was worth it, there should be a new function on YouTube called the hype function that allows up-and-coming YouTubers to benefit from videos, because you can just put a hype on it and then it'll be thrown into the feeds of a lot of people. If this video is worth that to you, please do that. If you liked the video and you're already subscribed, go ahead and leave a comment, leave a like. If you disliked the video, dislike the video. Leave a hate comment for all I care. Just engage with it, please. If you know someone who might like this video, go ahead and share it with them. And lastly, I have a lot of personal endeavors that I take up, and I have a lot of other things I do, so please check out my film studio, check out my stories, check out my Patreon, check out my Ko-Fi. These are all ways that you can help me in my creative endeavors and essentially be a part of it. I think that creativity is a unique way to serve the world and make it a better place. And I think I am the best version of myself when I'm being creative, and I am serving the world, and I am trying to make it a better place. So, being here in this community, watching these stupid little videos, liking, commenting, doing all that dumb shit, directly helps me with that goal, and I would really appreciate your help with that goal. If you don't want to give me your help with that goal, that's fine. That's okay. If you're unsure, you can subscribe now, and if you hate the videos that come next, you can unsubscribe later. That all being said, I don't need this to be super lengthy. You will be seeing me later this month because I will be having yet another video out. So, until the next time that we see each other, have a great time, take care of yourselves, memento mori, but more importantly, memento vivier.